In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to build an ADU in Ventura County. So we're going to talk about different timelines for different cities. Example, what are the timelines in Oxnard? What are the costs in Oxnard? Ventura, Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park. We're going to talk about very specific how to build an ADU in Ventura County. We'll talk about feasibility reports. We'll talk about permits. We'll talk about building costs. We'll talk about timelines. To help us with that, we have Edgar Candelario. He's the owner and founder of Cal Prestige, a local county here in Ventura County. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
All right. Thank you, Luis. Thanks for having me here in your podcast. Great, man. Excited to be here and, want to help out the community outreach to, pretty much educate people and give information about how to build ADUs, how to finance ADUs, how to permit them, the whole from A to Z. It's our mission to be able to help you from beginning to end and being the local resource here in Ventura County.
I love it. And the reason I'm excited is I've interviewed other people on the podcast, but not anybody that's specific to Ventura County. And from my understanding, you guys are a design and build company where you guys can actually design the plans and build, but here in Ventura County. So let's jump right into it. How long does each one of the cities take to approve ADUs? Which cities are the easiest and which cities take a little bit longer?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, so the ADU laws and the ADUs, Senate bills and all those apply to the whole state, right? So California, Sacramento signs a bill. It should go to every single city and every single city should be the same. But that's not that's not what's happening. There's different cities manage their building and safety, their planning separately, differently, different softwares, different platforms. So to answer your question, pretty much, Oxnard, unfortunately, is, my hometown, but unfortunately, Oxnard is one of the slowest process. They still use a paper process. You got to print, plan, submit, revisions via plan, still paper print. So that takes about, from submission to final approval, City of Oxnard, we're having from 5 to 6 months process, which is faster now than a couple of years ago. That was taking about a year and a half. But every city's getting better, right? Every city's getting better. Thousand Oaks is a quick city. Thousand Oaks is very pro ADUs. They have also pre-approved drawings. They have drawings ready to submit. That's Thousand Oaks, Camarillo, Simi Valley are your quickest turnaround cities. City of Ventura is also pretty good with their portal. So right now I would say average outside of Oxnard, you're looking between 3 and 4 months for an approved set of drawings. So our goal is to get you from beginning to end in 6 months, having approved plans in hand, ready to build, and at the same time, have the money coming right after that.
Got it. And then just for our viewers, my experience has been the same. We've built in Camarillo, very easy process. We built in Thousand Oaks, very easy process. It built in Simi Valley, very easy and quick turnarounds. And then Oxnard was the pain in the where for us, in some cases, it took us a year to even 2 years just to get the plans approved. Recently, though, our architect made us part of a program where I think you go in and they review your plans in person. Can you tell us a little bit about that if you're familiar with it and how does that work? And I think from what I remember, we were able to get our plans approved like within 2 months or something like that, which was a lot faster than
Well, yeah, no, it depends
experience.
on the complexity, right? It depends on the complexity of your project and what it needs to be. But yes, so Oxnard has also hired, and all their cities, what they're doing is because of the volume of drawings that are coming into the cities, they've hired a third party. They hired third party firms or like architectural design firms that will review that. So having that extra help has shortened the duration. As far as the Wednesdays, I know what I'm not really super familiar with the Wednesdays approval, but right now we are working very close with their third party, company that they hired to revise those, and those are making it faster. Also, the quality of drawings, right? There's always two sides of the story, right? You ask Oxnard, hey, why are you guys so slow? And their response can be, well, a lot of drawings come in not complete or the quality of drawings. So another recommendation is work with somebody that is very familiar with City of Oxnard and requirements. Yes, you can hire people from out of town or from LA, but you have to know that the team that you're working with has that experience with that specific city, because each city is different, and you have to make sure that you just understand the requirements. As far as the full requirements are the same, but specific cities have specific ways to do it. And yeah, the city of Oxnard still does paper, so just make sure that you have to print your 3 rolls, submit them, wait for the revisions. So another thing I forgot to, sorry, Wainimi. Wainimi is also a very great city. Wainimi wants a lot of ADUs. Wainimi, they're always been the biggest pro business, in here locally, because they want to bring more income to their city and also county. So if you live in incorporated areas, Nyland Acres, El Rio, anywhere county,
Somas.
county is also Somis County is also very, very good, and they have pre-approved drawings that you cannot modify, that they were originally made for the farm workers' homes, but now they've made those like they're pre-approved. So they do have a 700, I believe a 1,000 square foot. They have like three individual plans that they're pre-approved.
Yeah, I love it. So let me ask you this: like, how do the fees vary from city to city? And I don't even know this.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't focus on that department. My
Right.
wife usually pays any of the bills. But I was going to ask you, like, are they pretty standard where the fees are pretty similar all across the board in every city, or do they vary tremendously? And how does that work
Mm-hmm.
for
No,
like the
actually,
city
yes.
fees? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the city fees are pretty much the same across, right? The board. You may have just differences in the school fees, in depending on your school. What is it? Your school district. Some districts may have higher, lower fees, but that's mostly where you go into. Another thing to know is the square footages, right? So there is square footages, like for example 750 square feet or above, you trigger impact fees. So in the 750 you can do a 2 bedroom. So a lot of ways around it is to go 749, 740, right under those. Anything right now in California, anything any new construction above 1,000 square feet, you need solar, and you trigger higher impact fees. So it's just knowing the square footage numbers and making that your basis of your design, right? That's why design build, I think it's the best a method of delivery for that ADU, because when you talk to us from beginning to end, we understand your what the building, the purpose the building will serve. And, as far as like in a house, a loved one, or mother, an aging, parent, an aging child. I mean, and then we go back and make sure that we can make that the most efficient possible the whole way. If you need a 1,200 square foot, you need a 1,200 square foot. But if you don't need if you're between a 755 and a 750, or you don't understand those, we'll make sure that we explain to you at what different square footage increases will trigger a different price.
And then from 740 to 745, it's not much of a difference. Or
Right.
740 to 753 is not much of a difference in terms of square feet. So if you can stay below those, then I think having that option and having it
Mm-hmm.
explained is extremely helpful. So let me ask you this: what are impact fees for maybe viewers that don't know what an impact fee is?
So impact fees, the way the cities look at it, right? It's that now that you have more people in a dense area, so you're in their mind, right? You're adding more people over in one roof. So there could be more children that may need schools, or hospitals or police. More for the city fees, right? For police officers, firefighters, anything that's more impact fees. Now, if you have more cars, that might trigger more wear and tear on the city infrastructure. So that's what the impact fees is. How more housing in a zone, it's going to increase like the impact to the infrastructures pretty much.
Got it. I love it. Okay. Now let's talk about feasibility. There's a bunch of laws that have gone into effect, like lot splits,
Mm-hmm.
converting ADUs into condominiums, basically building an ADU for the front house, doing a lot split, then building in the back. The most we've ever built was a junior ADU in Oxnard with an ADU when they didn't care if it was owner occupied. I believe that changed this year.
Mm-hmm.
What are you kind of seeing for most single family residences that you can build, and are you seeing where somebody can build more than one unit, and are you ever seeing any lot splits yet, and where they can build multiple residences with all ADUs as well too?
No, it's getting really exciting. Everything that's passing, and remember these Senate bills they pass every year, they pass every couple of months. I mean, they pass all the time. It's getting really exciting in the ADU, space because yes, for the big, there's when it started, right? A lot of city of Oxnard from the beginning, the state will pass a Senate bill or they'll pass, a law into place, and then the cities have couple years or a couple months to adopt those. But some cities, at the beginning, some cities try to adopt those and interpret those Senate bills in their own way. So, example like Oxnard, right? Oxnard before, if you weren't, close to a public transportation, they wouldn't allow it. If you couldn't create parking, they wouldn't allow it. And the state has been making it easier for homeowners to build. Um, you know, they did originally they did where a homeowner has to live in the home for 5 years, but I think that's going to get extended. Like SB, I think there's one that just passed for SB 1211 was a great one where it's now increases the allowable number of detached ADUs from 2 to 8. So now you can lot split, and that is now people are looking into their homes to maximize, and now there's a lot of these new tools, a lot of these Senate bills that you can use. um, there's like a new assembly bill that got passed that was like it gave amnesty to unpermitted ADUs. So now if you had an unpermitted ADU, they couldn't take your home away from you, and so now you have a lot of new things that you can permit. You can permit those. Now every home in California can have 3 units. So you can have a junior ADU, 500 or less square feet, and then you can have also an ADU. So you can, in
Even
theory,
if it's non-owner occupied?
correct. Yeah. So, and what is owner occupied, right? I mean, define that and prove that, and then you're owner occupied, right? So yeah. So now, even for investors, right? What the state's trying to do is they're trying to keep away private equity, right? They're trying to keep away, making it super easy where just private equity is buying out blocks of houses and converting them to fourplexes, right? I think that's what the state's doing, and trying to protect the homeowner
Yeah.
from private equity or from large investors. But yeah, so now every home in California you can do 3 units, right? You can have your main home, you can convert a garage or you convert an existing space, and or you can add additional square footage. So there are some homes, like right now I'm working in this home here in El Rio where it's a 6 bedroom home, 3 baths.
Yeah.
They can just subdivide. They can just chop up the house in 3 little pieces and and make a junior ADU in the house. So and then there's a fourth one that unit too. So there's a lot of different Senate bills that were passed that allows you to go over the just one ADU. So now you can go 3 and 4 potentially, and now also exciting in multifamily. So now you have a duplex. If you have a duplex, you can technically build 8 units, right? So you can
Yeah.
technically 3 and 3, 4 and 4, because it's already a duplex, or you can lot split. So we are starting to see many people, inquiring about lot splitting. We are going through the processes of those now, of lot splitting. But I think it just opens up, this whole ADU space for people to take advantage of it, and invest in their property, or just help out the community and their own families by providing more homes.
You said you guys are building something in El Rio. I had overheard that there's some like water restrictions, fire issues with the city or with El Rio. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah. So uh, in El Rio, there's multiple water companies, right? When you buy a property in El Rio, you buy rights to the water company. A couple of those water companies do not have the water availability. So I know because like my family has a property that they bought many years ago, and that was going to be like their forever home, and they're going to build this huge house. And then we found out that we couldn't build because the water company we belong to doesn't have the infrastructure. So there's water companies. Every owner is a owner. Every owner is owner of that water company that they belong to. And you have to make sure when you're buying a property in El Rio, or if you have a house in El Rio or any other area that is served by either a well or by a private water company, that they have water availability, because that's kind of like the first thing you need to know. If you're in the city of Oxnard, they have water availability, right? They have
Yeah,
water.
it's not a problem.
If you're a city of Camarillo, they have the water. But if you're in a private well or a private water company, you have to make sure that that water company has availability. Here in El Rio and in some areas in the county, those water companies do not. So that's where they hold you, stop you right now.
And I think what's important, and this is a point that I want to make because I've had a lot of people that are from LA or different contractors.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know that the city of El Rio has 6 different companies, you may get started with your ADU plans only to find out that there's no way, zero probability that they're ever going to
Mm-hmm.
get approved. And you've already invested some capital, time, energy, and resources, as opposed to having somebody like Edgar that is somewhat familiar with that and can be like, hey, look, it doesn't even make sense for me to take your money because there's no way that this is going to go by. So
Mm-hmm.
the first step is just basically understanding what you can build in your specific area, and that's something that Edgar and their company can help you guys out with. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about. We already talked about the permits. We already talked about a little bit about the cost as well too. How long does the building process take? Like, let's say that it's ground up construction. Let's say it's 1,200 square feet. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
max it out. Are we talking about a year, 6 months, 3 years? What is normal? What is not normal? And
Right.
then,
No. So yeah. So in the construction side, right? So once you have your permits approved and you have your construction plans in hand, the way we do it, so we hit the ground running, is by making sure that we design your interior, your color. I mean, pretty much we want to have it almost done to the color of the walls. So when we do start construction, we hit the ground running, and making sure that the money is there too. So that's very important, right? The money part. But a 1,200 square foot ADU, detached ADU, we can build in 3 or 4 months. There is the slowdown is inspections, right? I mean, do we have inspections? We have any time of duration with materials. But our biggest goal now is creating a path where we go from A to Z, from planning to construction, and we're not wasting any time in the process. Like, for example, right, you're not hiring a designer or architect and then you get your plans approved and then wait until you get your plans approved to go looking for a contractor, because that's going to take you a couple months, and then you realize once you get all those bids from the contractors, you realize that, whoa, I don't have the money available, or it's more than I thought, right? So
well,
then that takes a lot of time too.
not only that, but like, I think if you're going to be going through the process,
Mm-hmm.
there's different designs that would cost more just based on the design of the property. So there's like adjustments that you can make, like connecting certain walls to bathrooms or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, to make it a lot less costly. So I think the benefit of having a design and build is that you can factor that into consideration. You're not designing something that's like aesthetically pleasing that later on you're going to find out it's like, oh my god, that's an extra 75,000 than if I would have done it this way. And I think that's one of the challenges. Let's backtrack a little bit though.
Okay.
So when I got involved in the ADU space, I had no idea what planning was. I had no idea what building and safety was. So when
Mm-hmm.
I started talking to different contractors, it was just like kind of like way over my head. And me not understanding that made me go through 2 or 3 different architects at the very beginning because I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know if the delay was part of the city. I didn't know if the delay was the actual architect. What is planning? What is building and safety? What is normal in terms of corrections?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how long does it get to take planning approval? What does that even mean? How long does it take to get building and safety? Like, let's break it down a little bit just so that
Mm-hmm.
people can understand the getting the plans approved process, because I think that's important for consumers to understand as well too.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, every city, right? Cities have different departments. If it has different departments, and when you're building an ADU, the first step is always going to be planning, right? Planning has the master plan of the city, right? What the city should look like feel like, what's coming into the city. So planning has an important step in approving your project. If you're doing an ADU or you're building a movie theater, the first step is always going to come into build to planning and making sure that the building or whatever you're doing meets the city requirements, meets the city plan of what they want to do. And right now, ADUs are in the city plan. So there's a couple of things. First, you stop with planning. There's a couple, checklists that you check up with that. Then once it goes through planning, which is the first quick, it's pretty quick. Then it goes into building and safety. Building and safety now, planning kind of just overviews the project, what type of project it is, square footage, kind of generalizing the project. Like I said, if it's legal to do, ADUs are legal to do, so they go into building and safety. Building and safety is when they go through all your drawings, making sure that your dimensions are up to code, right? Different that everything is up to code, to the new building code, right? Building codes change every 2 to 4 years in California. Something happens in earthquakes, or something happens, an accident happens somewhere, a building collapses, and we learn from that, and then we apply it to the new building code. So anything that's being built today has to meet building code of today. You have to also make sure that you're submitting plans when the building codes are going to change. Sometimes December 30th is the last day to submit plans based on the previous codes.
Previous.
Right. So if you get your plans approved that next summer, your plans they have to pass the old building codes, not the new ones. But yeah, building and safety will make sure, building and safety make sure that the building is safe for the residents, the occupants, and for the people outside, right? Is everything in, firewalls, right? For example, if you're doing a garage conversion, you're creating a separate building from the other building. So you have to make sure that you have, your windows are sized correctly, your egress and is sized correctly. Your firewall is a firewall, so you don't let the fire from the ADU pass into the home. So that's what building and safety does. And then it goes to the third step, school fees, anything, permit fees, and then you get your plans approved.
So basically, in the planning, you don't need an engineer. It's basically like a drawing of what your proposed is.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can make a plot plan. So planning needs a plot plan, right? Where your property is, what type. They don't have to look into the interior. So I always advise
Just
people,
square footage,
square
setbacks, that
footage,
sort of thing.
setbacks, the general, what the building is. Okay, great. It was passed by the zoning, right? Is it in the right zoning? Are you trying to build a commercial building in a residential area, or are you trying to build a residential in a home? So those are the things that you have to check, to look into. Know your zone, right? Know your general zoning area, and that's what kind of planning is. Uh, Learn the general zoning area, and then go and propose something that's going to make sense. So that's the difference. Planning is more proposing. Zoning, that's the type of building that you're trying to build is allowed in that zone, in that area. And if not, then you have to go into you have to go back. But I always gonna say, hire somebody that knows what they're doing from the beginning, because I do see, we go to the city a lot. We do see, homeowners there, with a piece of
Probably,
paper.
probably frustrated.
Frustrated, right? They don't understand the lingo. They don't understand what they're talking about. And just to crush their dreams, right? Or feel like their dreams got crushed. I know a lot of times, I go to the city, we're there, we're waiting for an appointment, and we just see frustration from a customer, or code violation, right? Somebody say, hey, I got this letter saying that my garage or my patio cover has a code violation, and
Yeah.
now they're making them do all this plan. So always, can you do it by yourself? Yes, you can do it by yourself if you know how to sketch and how to draft. But I always gonna say, work with a professional, a designer, contractor that understands the process, because it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Here's what I was going to ask you. And I did this. So I bought a house in Somis 2 years ago. It was a fixer upper, man. And we hired a designer. And what was cool about the designer is that we were able to see what the house was going to look like way before it even looked like that. Like, meaning, like, if I showed you a picture of the design that she came up, my house looks almost identical to that design, which is kind of crazy. Do you guys offer those services where almost somebody can like see what the ADU will look like colors wise, finishes, counters, that sort of thing? And what is the benefit of doing that versus kind of just not doing that as well?
Oh no, of course, yeah. Especially with with technology nowadays, right? A little of my background, right? I'm an engineer. I went to school for engineering, construction engineering. I went into work for commercial construction, and at that time, kind of like I remember like the 3D goggles and the Google, all that started. So we went from just in my age, my generation, I guess we went from 2D plans, right, black and white plans with just
Yeah,
lines and okay, that's my house, to we were saying renderings, right? Mock-up. So back in the day, they used to actually mock up a whole house, like with Bob's wood, and they used to make
oh,
a
that's
little house
crazy.
and you. But now there's so much technology, right? Now there's renderings, they're hyper realistic renderings. Anytime that that you hire somebody, you want to make sure that you really understand what you're building. And how do I that do this for a living every day? And I can see drawings and I can see in 3D, right? Almost after you doing it for many, many years. But how do I explain that to a homeowner that's never gone through the process of designing something? So now with technology, we do offer renderings. We have, our plans have a 3D model. So our plans that we do submit to the city have renderings of different elevations, different sides of the houses, and how it's going to look, and in a 3D. Going further on that, we can do interior renderings of the interior house, and where you can put on goggles, the Google goggles, and you can see the interior of the
That's
house to the
amazing.
color. And now with technology, you can change all the softwares now. You can change it by appliances. Like all the appliances have a catalog, a digital catalog. All the
Yeah.
cabinets, we have digital catalogs. You can change the color by just click a button, change the color of the walls, change the color of the cabinets, raise the roof a foot. So yes, I would say, technology now, AI, man, AI is just becoming such a great tool, where homeowners now, you can take a picture of your house and you can say, hey, I want to remodel it into a different, different views, and it's instantly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to take advantage of the technology. But we do, yes,
That's
we
it.
do we do
Yeah.
offer that in our company.
And I love that. And I think I even saw like on social that you had like a showroom, which that, in my opinion, so what the designer would do that I had was she'd be like, okay, she'd come over to our house and bring like 10 different types of countertops
Mm-hmm.
and be like, hey, look, these are the countertops, these are the different floorings.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having to go into like a store or something like that, that's what I'm imagining that you guys have at your shop, where somebody can walk in and be like, okay, look, these are the different quality of cabinets, these are the different finishes, these are the different door handles, these are the different
Mm-hmm.
counters. And to be honest, if you guys haven't done that, it's a great experience, guys. Let's talk about the financing for ADUs. So how are most people financing them, and what issues are you seeing on the financing side of ADUs?
Yeah, I think right now the biggest misconception is the cost, right? Houses were $200,000 in the '90s, right? That's how
Yeah.
much they were, and now they're a million. And I can't do anything about it, right? Same thing with construction costs. Construction costs. The cost of construction goes with labor and materials. If labor goes up and materials go up, well, then cost of construction goes up. So I think right now the biggest misconception people have, also rent, right? If I come to you and I say, Jose Luis, you're going to be able to rent that garage for $2,500. Some people just say, what do you mean? My mortgage is $1,500. There's no way there's going to be a $2,500 rental. It's just that. I think right now people are uh, just, if they've been homeowners for 20 years, they don't know how much rent is. And they bought their home for 180,000, and now you're out there trying to build an ADU in their backyard for 200,000. They're like, you're crazy. So it's just right now, it's just making sure that people are informed of the prices of construction, the what interest is, and the price of rent. And once you put that in a formula, right? I'm a numbers guy, and you pop out with a number that makes sense. Then you go feasibility. Hey, it makes sense. Let's go finance it. Right now, I feel people, especially in our community. I was born in Mexico and I came here when I was young, and people have this misconception of I have to have my house paid off, and there's no way I'm gonna touch my equity in my house ever. Okay, but but then you're never gonna be able to leverage the money. So right now it's making people understand, right? Like, I think we talked about this before the podcast, how to, now you're shifting into a mindset of becoming an investor, right? The moment you decide, hey, I need to create additional homes in my house to either house my mother, my children, rent it out, you're becoming an investor. So you have to understand numbers, right? You have to work with a team that has all those people in that team. So making sure that you understand the prices, the interest, all that, and now equity, or understand how you can finance it. People think that they're just going to be able to, I mean, I don't know how many people have 300-400 grand in their pocket or $100,000 in their bank account just ready to go. But just knowing that there's options, right? Options via tapping into your equity. Okay. And then they'll say, well, I have a 2.5% interest that I don't want to touch, ever going to touch it. Okay. Get a second mortgage, right? Like I said, I'm not a mortgage broker. I'm not a, mortgage expert. So, I'm just kind of telling you what I see and talk to your mortgage lenders. But there is a lot of options now. ADUs, banks understand what ADUs are now, and there's renovation loans. So if you don't have, so for example, if you have a lot of equity, then do a cash out refinance, pull the money, invest it. Hey, Edgar, I have a really low interest. Okay, but you have a lot of equity. If you never tap into the equity, it's never gonna be able to be used. So do those numbers, right? If you do a cash out refinance, just know that interests are gonna go down, eventually. So leverage that money. A second way is to do like renovation loans. So if you have no equity in your house, you can go out there and do a renovation loan. So the banks will loan you on the future value of the house. So you may have no equity, or you may only have $50,000 of equity in your house. But if you're going to do an ADU, that now they're being appraised. So ADUs 5 years ago, appraisal wasn't as much as you wanted it to be. Now, I mean,
Yeah,
homes are being sold, and there's a lot of transactions with ADUs,
ADUs.
and those are being appraised. So now banks will say, okay, you're going to add $300,000 to your home via an ADU, and you have 50%. If you have $50,000 equity, we'll use the future value, up to 80% or whatever they do, to give you equity. You have to be able to. When you refinance, be able to show that you can afford the new payment, because they're not really taking the new rental income as income yet, right? But that's another way. Or you have savings, that's another way. But there's so many ways now. I mean, people are looking into ADUs as, if you're at, if you're in your 20s and you're looking to buy a house and you're just, man, I'm never gonna be able to buy a house. I tell people, well, go into business, go in partnership with your parents. Get a new loan with your income now, their income, apply for that renovation loan that's going to allow you to tap into that equity, or the cash out refinance that's going to allow you to tap into the equity and make that money work for you, pretty much.
Yeah. Even like I think so I had the issue where I had a decent amount of my properties had very low interest rates, 3%, 2.5%. And I wanted to build ADUs. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do a cash out refinance.
Yeah, right.
And because I didn't want to do a cash out refinance, it forced me to kind of get creative. So I went out into the marketplace. I started seeing which lenders would do second loans for basically building ADUs. And I kind of ran into like some challenges where some lenders weren't willing to do it, or they were willing to do it at a very low loan to value ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So what I realized is there's a book called the Banker's Code, and the Banker Codes talks about how like anybody can be a private lender, meaning that like let's say that your dad basically has $200,000 at Wells Fargo and he's earning 3% on a CD. Your dad could actually lend you the money to build the ADU. He can put a mortgage on the property, a note and a deed of trust. And instead of earning the 3%, maybe you pay him 6% or 7%. And now his money is secured by the property, no different than a bank would. So the banker's code kind of teaches you how you can become the bank. And I actually became a bank out of my 401k, out of my or IRA or whatever it is. And I lent my sister money. The rules are you can't lend your father or your children money, but from your 401k. But if you have money in the bank, you can lend it to anybody. So it forced me to get a lot more creative as it relates to that. So we got some videos on the self-directed IRA, on how people can be private lenders for you if you know somebody that has a self-directed IRA, and also how just different people can be private lenders for you and building relationships with different people. And it's surprising to me how many people are out there that are doing private lending that I wasn't even aware of until I read that book and I started asking around. I just talked to an attorney today. He's like, "Oh yeah, I do private loans. I've got X amount of private loans." I'm like, "How much do you charge?" He's like, "I charge 8%." And I'm like, that's way better than a 10% or an 11% that's available in the marketplace. So there's ways of getting creative, and we've got different videos on that if you guys are interested. Here's the last thing I wanted to ask you. So,
Mhm.
like, if somebody, or first of all, is there any other things that we missed about building ADUs in Ventura County? And then the last thing is if we didn't, how can somebody get in touch with you and your company and basically maybe schedule a consultation if they're considering doing an ADU in Ventura County?
Yeah, no. So I mean, as far as what ADUs, like every home is different. So there is general idea of how to go, but it's not hard, right? It's just getting with the team to do it. And I say right now, especially with your example of the private lenders, you just have to get creative, right? I mean, we are in a situation right now where homes are expensive, and your income cannot grow as quickly as you want, and either you just stay there and literally you just wait for it to change. It never changes, or you do something about it, right? And like you said, you get proactive with the lending. With when interest were at 2%, private lending wasn't very popular, right? Now that the interest is at 8%, at 7, 8, or sometimes on second mortgages 10, 12%. Then if somebody has the money and they'll loan it at 6%, 7%.
It's amazing. It's a
Yeah, no,
win-win.
I deal with, now that I'm in this space, and I deal with private lending all the time. And there is ways, like you said, there is ways to get the money. There is ways to build it. The numbers do make sense right now, even at high construction costs. I mean, you want to call it, or high materials costs, or high interest costs. The numbers still make sense. I mean, just to give you kind of the last example of kind of the averages we're doing right now. So right now, at average, and just working with our lenders, we're seeing that the average $100,000 costs the person about $900 per month, right? On a 20 or so if you're building a $200,000 ADU, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, you can rent those out for $3,000. If your payment's 2,000, or 1,800, then you're cash positive.
A
So if it
thousand
works
dollar
right,
margin.
exactly. So if it works right now, and in hopes that the interest is going to drop in a couple of years, then you refinance. But it's just getting the money for the plans right now. So right now, general things, to kind of close, you need about $6,000 to $10,000 for plans and permits, right? So you need some money up front. That's the soft cost, uh, to get the plans and that going. And then you don't need your money, the construction cost money. You don't need it. Like we talked earlier on the different cities. You don't need your money like 4 to 6 months out. So first, concentrate on how to get the money for the plans, how to get the money for that. Work with your contractor. Work with us, that we're going to give you kind of road plan for the future, and where you need the money, and how where the money comes from. And then just start doing it, because I tell you, if you don't start today, it's never going to get done. I mean, I've had customers that call me 7 months later, still asking me questions like, "Dude, we could have had your plans approved already. You could have been on the second stage." So just know that there's solutions. Know that there is a solution right now for the high cost of housing, for the housing crisis. Yes, they're building more houses, but building more $1 million houses is not going to solve the housing crisis. We have to build more affordable. And I think in the affordability, the ADU space is right in there, and that's what's meant to be for you as a family, as a family person, to be able to provide affordable housing for children that are aging, that can't buy right now, for parents that are aging, that have to come back and live with you, and for other members of the community that need affordable housing. So if you guys are interested in any of what we do, like I said, we're a design build company. We're local. We're here in Oxnard. We work in all Ventura County. We do design, permitting, and construction. If you only need us for design permitting, we do that too. I talk to a lot of contractors. They're like, well, I'm like, what if contractors out there, if I can get your customers designed and financed for you to do construction, that's a good thing. We're becoming kind of consultants and helping people just, find a way to do it. That's the biggest way. Just find a way to do it. Know that there is a way out there that exists to be able to do that. Follows on Instagram at Cal Prestige, or myself at Edgar can do it. In Instagram, we host workshops weekly. We have every Thursday. We host a workshop either in our office or in a brand new built ADU. Like the last 2 weeks, we've done it in a garage conversion. We did in Oxnard. This Thursday, we'll be having it too here in 2040 North 8th Street in Oxnard, Thursday at 6:30 p.m. And just come out, learn, get the road plan start, get the process started. Or, give us a call. Give us a call, 805-204-8885. My phone rings all day. I answer you, and we go out to your property, give you a free feasibility. We go out there, we walk the property with you. It takes about 30 minutes. What's the property gonna, what's it gonna serve? What's, the budget in general? And then we go to work on providing those plans that, those plans that are gonna be what you need, and finding the money, helping you find the money via any of our lenders, or if you have a broker that you work with already, second mortgages, if you're pre-approved, if you're getting offers from your bank to get pre-approved, start the pre-approval. Because sometimes, if your credit's not 100% there, it's like buying a house again, right? Sometimes it takes us 6 months to get drawings approved and 6 months to get that person, that family ready to refinance or to finance again. So just start the process, know that there's help out there, know that you can do it, know there's a lot of laws now that are pro ADUs, and just get out there and start doing it, man.
I love it, man. Well, I want to say thank you, Edgar, for coming on the show. Today we had Edgar Candelario. He talked to us about how to build an ADU in Ventura County. We talked about the different cities, the different timelines, the different fees. We also talked about the feasibility. We talked about permits. We talked about building and safety. And we also talked about financing. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this episode will be helpful to somebody, make sure to hit that share button. Thanks again, Edgar. Appreciate your time. Cal Prestige. And to our viewers, until next time.
All right.